All right, so a few cross wraps in one direction, a few cross wraps in the other direction, and then again, what I call stirrup, some people call them yoke wraps, under the hook, over the top of each side, under, over the top of each side, under, over the top of each side. And I'll do 3 or 4 of those on each side, and then horizontal wraps around the base of that to really cinch it all down. Okay. So our eye is now secure, roughly a little over an eye length behind. Now, we want to take our thread all the way back down the bend of the hook, probably close to halfway. Not quite halfway, but a good ways down the bend, and then bring it back to around the hook point. So it's anywhere down in the deep in the bend of the hook, because when we tie our tail in, we want it to angle down. And again, we're using this gray Arctic fox. And if you have one piece of it, there's probably enough to where you can just split it, and it's on a small piece of hide. Just divide it in 2 pieces, snip them apart, and you'll get 2 flies out of it. If not, we've got a few more pieces over there. You can grab one. So I'm going to snip that in half, and now I have 1 bunch. And we're not going to use near the full length of this. Get rid of a few of those fibers here. Okay. We want our tail to be about the length of the full hook. I've got some weird, there we go. So somewhere around, looks about right. So about where my thumb is on the fur, I want to transfer that back to where my thread is, and then change hands with it and give it a couple of wraps just to tie it there. And notice I'm leaving it on the hide at this point. You could cut it now if you wanted to, but I'm going to leave it on. And then we want to, I'm going to pull a little more. We want to hold that fur and kind of a little ball, angle it. I'm going to angle my vise so you can see it. Pull it towards yourself. See, I have it pulled towards myself and up, and that keeps it on top of that hook shank, and wrap it all the way down to where we took our thread to that point at the bottom. And then I'm going to trim all that excess off. Get all the way down. And then bring your thread, again, back up to about the hook point. And you can see that my tail is angled fairly steeply downward, just with the bend of that hook. It's kind of continues the line of the bend of the hook. And I've got a really long piece there. All right, there we are. Okay, next material is Krystal flash. And this is pearl Krystal flash. And I have a full length here that's about 12 inches long, roughly a foot long. I'm going to double that and cut it in half twice. I'm going to do that 2 times, leaving me with 4 pieces. I'm going to have to do that behind the camera. I don't have enough space in front there. I'm going to fold it in half, cut it, and then fold it in half a second time. Fold those 2 pieces in half and cut it and have 4 pieces. So now I have 4 pieces, about 4 inches long each. I'm gonna clean up the front of my fur there a little bit. All right, there we go. Now, I'm gonna take these 4 pieces and just in front of my thread, I'm on to, at their midpoint, I'm on to pull them up under the hook shaft. And grab both of them. And at first holding straight up and start wrapping. And then pull the Krystal flash down and wrap it down as far as we wrap the tail. Don't let go of it yet because we're going to trim it while we have our hands on it. And then take your thread back to the hook point again. So yeah, don't let go of it. So while you have all now 8 of those, trim it to about the same length as the tail. Yeah. Stop for a second, give everybody a chance to catch up. All right, one more material for the tail, and this is fluorescent red, standard size ultra chenille. This is a piece I've cut to about 1.25 inches and just touch the end of it with a lighter. Did you get some, need some, Orlando?
Thank you, Orlando.
Get you a couple of those, yeah.
Jim got one? Anybody else? No, I got one.
Yep. So I've touched the end of it with a lighter just to taper the end of it and seal it off. And we want this to be about the same length as the tail. So we're going to have to trim it a little bit. I cut these to about 1.25 inches long, the ones we have here. So that's about the length I want it. And I want it to end at about the same point my other materials are. So I'm going to tie it in on top of the hook shank right there. And you don't have to make touching wraps. I'm just going to spiral back to that same point in the bend of the hook and then come back to our tie point. So now that finishes our tail. So we have the fur, the Krystal flash, and then the ultra chenille. For those of you that have tied carp flies, this is very much like a carp hybrid. It's similar in shape and structure, but it's not, certainly there are a lot of differences, but just in general, this is like a lot of the carp flies are tied. And now we only have one more material, and that's your, it's a standard Estaz in opal white. And this is where you, Krystal flash chenille would work just fine, medium Krystal flash chenille. Really almost any kind of buggy chenille would work really well for the body. So we, as usual, when we tie in this stuff, we strip some of those fibers away to expose the core for about 1/4 inch or less. Tie that core down. Now, I'm not going to take it all the way down to that tie-in point, but pretty close to it. And then I'm going to bring my thread all the way to behind the dumbbell. I'm just short, because I'm going to wrap this there. I'm just short of that base tie-in point.
How far did you wrap it down the backslide?
The backside probably not quite halfway down. This would be halfway here. So it's just above that, like right there.
Okay.
Yeah. The chenille you're talking about, Mike?
Yeah, how far up?
Just wrap it, tie it down almost as far as the tail is, not quite.
Oh, so not quite as far as, okay.
As the tail, yeah. I mean, it doesn't hurt if you do. You can go all the way back if you like, but I like to leave it just a little bit short. And we're actually almost finished with this fly. All that remains is to wrap the chenille, tie it off, build a quick head and whip finish. So I'm going to take touching wraps. Now, this stuff is kind of like almost like hackle in a way, in that you want to kind of keep it swept back if you can, at least partially, as you make some of these turns. You don't have to make touching turns, but they should be pretty close to each other. Maybe a thread's width between each one, but not much more than that. And I'm going to wrap all the way up to behind the eye. And when I get there, I'll take 2 or 3 wraps, cinch that down, 2 or 3 wraps in front of the chenille, but still behind the eye, and then trim the chenille off. And that'll be enough for our next fly, next copy.
Don't go over
Yeah, and then we're going, not with the chenille now. And then you move the thread in front of the dumbbell eyes, build a thread head, whip finish, and that's it. And that's why I did that little bump to begin with, because see, it's really difficult to build a head tucked up into those eyes there. So I did that little bump early on to help build that head. Yeah, this one, you know, like with the peanut envy, remember last month, we figure eighted over the eyes to the front, and you could do that with this. It's just that that's 4 or 5 turn whip finish. And you could then put UV or head cement on that. I'm not going to do either of those here with this, and that's it. I mean, it's truly, when you get rolling, it's truly a 5-minute pattern.
And any other colors, or this one works well?
This is the one Chris has used. He's caught bass on this one, and some salt. He's caught redfish on it. I think he may even caught a mullet. He caught something. It's on his blog. You'd have to look. I don't know. It might. Yeah, I think you might vary the. This would be a good shad color, because with gray and silver. You could use white eyes if you wanted to. Maybe change the orange tail out to something a little different, but
if I heard you right, you really, there's going to be the size of the eyes, kind of medium, go small.
yeah, if it's you know, if I'm in shallow water, probably small would be fine on this. This eye looks a little big. Flip and I were talking about that earlier. It looks a little large for this hook size. But now if you're tying this like on a Gamakatsu B10S size 4, which is a lot bigger fly, whole lot bigger hook, even though they're both size 4s, this size would probably be fine. But there's just not, with this view of material, there's not a lot of buoyancy there. So it doesn't need a lot of weight to get down. But again, is good jigging motion, you know, jerking it through the water if they're after shad, it's gonna have good action in the water. All right, everyone successful on the first copy. That only took about 15 minutes, so we have plenty of time to tie a second one. All right, let's do number 2. How am I online, folks? All good out there?
Doing great.
All right, good.
Yeah.
Good.
We haven't seen materials.
All right, let me find my hook. And again, I'm just going to start and lay roughly a quarter of an inch thread base behind the eye, and then build that little bump right behind the eye. Yeah, right there. I'm gonna leave the YouTube going since I didn't get the start down on the first fly. All right, then about 1 eye length back is where I'm building that little bump. And again, it's more like pre-building my thread head than it is for the eyes. Okay. All right. Grab one more of the dumbbell eyes. And again, you tie these on whatever way you like to tie dumbbells on. I like 4 or 5. Okay, cross wraps in one direction, 4 or 5 in the other direction. And then those stirrup wraps. Jim, did I lose focus up there? I moved my bias just a little bit. Okay. All right. Okay. And then let's take our thread all the way down to that bend. And again, it is not critical. I'm to, that just looks about right. You just want to be in line. You want to go down far enough to when you tie that tail in, it's continuing the line of the bend there. And then I come back up to about the hook point. And just to do it in just a little bit different way, I didn't pre-cut the last one, but I'm going to pre-cut this one. And you can decide which way you like to do it the best. I'm stripping some of that under fur out, or the loose fur out. And I want, again, a full hook length all the way down to there. So this time I'm not going to start tying. I'm actually just going to trim my fur right there. And then grab that fur with a few loose wraps of thread. And again, holding a little bundle towards me and up so it'll stay on top of the hook shank. I'll make touching wraps all the way down to the bend. And then take my thread back to the hook point. And Flip, you say you've tied clousers with this Arctic fox?
And they call it the Foxy Clouser. It's a red and a tan color.
Yeah.
In fact, the fellow that tied that was at the event in Gulf Shores year before last. That I can't remember his name, but he was from Florida at the time. But it's a nice looking pattern.
And you can tie that up to about a 4 down pretty much, I guess, because it's fur.
Yeah.
Not big.
Well,
Yeah.
the ones I have that I tied, and actually I think Mike tied some. You can ask him; he might have one there. But
yeah,
they're I think we've tied them in a size 4, maybe a 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see this fox. If you wanted small clousers, which is kind of tough sometimes with bucktail, this would be really good for a small one as well. Okay, Krystal flash, again, double my piece, my full length piece, and then cut it in half, fold that over, and cut that in half. Again, leaving me with my 4 pieces. I'm gonna let everybody catch up here a second.
It's definitely a bigger hook.
Yeah, these SC15s probably run smaller than any hook I know of for their size.
There's no bone pitch hook.
Mm-hmm.
Park hook that you all like that short.
Yeah. All right. Again, at roughly the midway point, and again, you can tie it in any way you like, but I like to go under the shaft of the hook. Grab all 8 pieces now and just tie it down. Again, holding it in a bundle towards me, because on this fly, we want it stacked on top as opposed to, just the way the pattern is, stacked on top as opposed to spread around the hook shank. All the way down and then back up. And while I'm holding it, before I let go, I am going to trim it. Roughly the length of the tail. Now you may notice on some of your little pieces of chenille, they're all curved and some of them are crooked and kinked, but once they get wet, they'll straighten out. And we want that about the same length as the tail, the rest of the tail. So I'm going to hold it evenly, even with the back, and then I'm going to cut it right there. And tying it on top of the hook shank, right on top of everything else. And I'll spiral down. And then come back up to my hook point. You know, Jim, also, I didn't record on the camera. See, you're supposed to have your checklist to remind me here.
I'll leave that. Or remind me next.
I'll do a short video and put it up though.
This is pretty quick.
Yeah, this is a quick one. All right, chenille, Estaz next. Strip a little bit of that fiber away.
Yeah, is there a way you prefer to tie it in with, as far, you know, if you're holding it up, I mean, with, you know, veins or whatever going up or down or?
Yeah, that's a good question. I do it with them because you notice there's a slant to the fibers.
Right.
I do it with the fibers slanting to the rear.
Okay.
I mean, you can do it either way.
Wow.
It's just, yeah. And you know why I do that? It's because that's the easiest way to peel them off the end, because on the
Yeah, I like
on the other end, it's a little harder. Yep. And I'll take my thread back
I'm glad y'all said it, because I never know.
to behind the eye. Yeah, they have a direction to them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's my finger.
I guess you could say the hackle are pointing to the rear.
Right.
Maybe. All right, so let's take roughly touching wraps. And again, I like to sweep back a little bit so you won't trap down all of those fibers. Just kind of hold back as you take the next wrap. And if you wanted something really buggy, and we're going to do something a little different with this one too, is that I didn't do on the last one. Just forgot to do it. But I'm not sure I would do it all the time anyway. You could use grande Estaz or larger chenille if you'd like. I'm going to make one more wrap to really pack it in behind the eye there. But Chris adds a step to his, and I honestly don't know if it's in Harry's original fly, but Chris Williams does it in his, and so we'll do it on this one. And you can just see which way you like the best.
Hey, well.
All right, so I trim that off, take a couple of wraps, and then I'm going in front of the eye.
Just say, oh.
I'm trying not to grab any of those fibers, but when you Estaz, like I've said before, it's almost impossible not to capture a few of those fibers. Want to create a little thread head there and whip finish.
What did you said Chris Williams did something different within that?
Yeah, we're getting ready to do it here in just a second. Once we whip finish and cut our thread, I'll show you. Captain Harry has so many versions of this fly that he ties and sells on his website. I don't think there is a single, quote, pattern template part. So I've whip finished, and what Chris does is he trims the bottom, which is the top here. He trims those fibers flat. So I'm going to take my scissors and just trim them flat. So as it rides eyes down, it presents a flat side to the bottom.
Looks like it rides over the dead.
Yeah, it does. It does. It pops right down like a carp fly. Because if I throw this down, if I lay this down, and I can't do it on camera, I don't think, but it sits just like that, which is just like a carp fly does. But that's what Chris does to his, and I'll let you decide which way you like. I probably wouldn't do that. I just like the bushy body, but it rides like that, of course. Well, Peter, you should be able to put this to use pretty close to home somewhere, so.
I think so.
And I know Flip's close to this saltwater, but I'm gonna try this here for bass, I think, because they've been on shad a few weeks ago. But we'll see. I like this color for that. All right, folks, what do you think?
It's good.
Yeah,
Really nice.
yeah. And Robert Hughes here has a place on the Little Mo. I never try flies like this on the Little Mo with trout. I don't know why I don't.
If you go out there, set that on the bottom, you can get your car.
Catch a carp with it.
Take it.
Is there? I need to come do that because I have not caught a carp yet this year. And your water is a whole lot cleaner than the New Orleans canals where I usually go.
In case you have to go in, right?
Yeah, in case I have to go in after the carp. That's right. That is right, like I did last year. All right, guys, that's a quick one. That's all. Next month, though, you do not want to miss next month. He's not in the room right now, so I can brag on him. But Jim Johnson brought a fly to us, years ago now, 3, 4, 5 years ago, called the Bad Hair Day. Mike Pinchowski, who is if I'm not mistaken, a muskie guide in either Wisconsin or Minnesota, one created this fly, and it's totally out of craft fur. No, it's unweighted. It's totally out of craft fur and flash. And I've probably caught more species. It's probably the second most versatile fly that I've ever fished. It has incredible action in the water. Like I say, it's all craft fur, and you'll see when we tie it why it's called a Bad Hair Day. It looks like the hair, if you remember the Smurfs, where the hair snap out of the top of their head, the fly looks like that if you hold it up. I tie it probably as small as I tie it's a number 4, but I've caught bass. We've caught hybrids on it. We've caught pickerel on it.
Wow.
We've caught, yeah.
What color?
What do you think? Chartreuse and white. I've caught speckled trout on it in saltwater. It's just a really, really versatile fly. And Jim is going to lead us in that one next month. Ties a little bit different. If you look up Mike Pinchowski's version, the one Jim ties and the one we tie is a little simpler and a little different. We just found that some of the things that he does, we don't have to do here for it. But it's anytime, if you want to get it deep, you have to fish it with weighted sinking line, but it's an awesome fly. Oh, there comes Jim back, so I'll quit talking about him. But anyway, next month you don't want to miss a Bad Hair Day. It is one you will always keep in your box. So all right, folks, that's all I have tonight. It's a short one, so good enough.
Thank you, Bill.
All right,
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Very nice. Thank you.
all right, Clip. See y'all next time.